AEW Forbidden Door has just wrapped up, and the pay-per-view, I have to say, was quite interesting to say the least. Opening show starts off with MJF versus one of the members of Age of Agony. Not going to speak too much on this match. We clearly know who was the obvious winner, who was supposed to win, MJF. Let's just hope for All In he's doing something more important, a bigger match, because this, let's be honest, he shouldn't even be in this match to begin with. But let's hope they have something bigger and better for him at All In. Next, we got the Acclaim in a trios match. The Acclaim with Hiroshi versus the Elite with the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada. This was a decent match as well. Just mainly gonna get towards the end though. Nothing too special happened in this match. Towards the end though, Hiroshi was in the ring with Okada. Hiroshi was going in between the ropes, going back and forth between the ropes, and then Okada ended up catching him with a drop kick, hits the Rainmaker, and pick up the victory for the Elite. Nothing more to really tell her. The Elite pick up a very necessary victory to build up, their reputation as this dangerous faction. And eventually the Acclaim will have their opportunity to face the Young Bucks for those AEW World Championship Tag Team titles eventually, whether it's at All In or it's on Dynamite. Hopefully it's at All In, because I don't know what the Elite would do at All In, but they may end up having the match on Dynamite. But the Elite pick up the necessary victory. Next, we get a very shocking match, in my opinion. Between Bryan Danielson and Shingo on the first part of the first round of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Now, to be fair, I had low expectations for this match, but to be fair, when you have someone like as good as Bryan Danielson, your expectations should be high. But yeah, this was a really good match, solid match. They end up playing a neck injury for Bryan Danielson early in the match, where Shingo ended up hitting a vertebrae on the outside, ended up hitting Bryan Danielson, landed on his neck, which was very concerning, because it looked like, because he did definitely hit his head, but it looked like he probably was concussed. But it was an injury angle. Me personally, I'm not the biggest fan of injury angles with baby faces, because I feel like the majority of the time they don't really add to the match. Like this match, for example, the match was still good, but you didn't really need to play an injury angle here, because all you did was make the heel look weak, because he still lost, and you got the same result even without the injury. Like, if you take away the injury angle, you get the same result. That's one of the reasons why I typically don't like injury angles with baby faces, because you get the same result no matter what. Like, if you have them injured, you would get to the same point that you was gonna get regardless, even if they weren't faking an injury. That's typically why I don't like injury angles. But this match was really good. Some very interesting spots here. But we get towards the end of the match though, where Bryan Danielson ended up hitting the psycho knee, goes for the pin. Shingo kicks out. Then he ends up putting him in an armbar, and Shingo ends up tapping out. And Bryan Danielson moves to the next round of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, where he will face Pac in the semifinals. Next, we get Mina Shirakawa versus Toni Storm for the AEW Women's World Championship match. This match right here, I don't know. I'm very mixed on this match, because this match was good, but I also feel like it was just okay. This match was solid though. Some interesting spots. We had a spot where Mina Shirakawa did a very dope diamond top rope DDT onto Toni Storm. They did the same thing what they did to Bryan Danielson, where they ended up playing another injury angle, this time with Toni Storm's leg. Same thing kind of happened, where you play a leg injury, but you don't really, the story that they was trying to play with the leg injury doesn't really change anything, whether or not Toni Storm was injured or not. You kind of get the same result, which I kind of feel like they didn't really need to do a leg injury here. And I also thought Mariah May was going to interfere in this match somewhat, play more of a part of the story in this match, but she wasn't really a factor in this match, which makes sense what happened towards the end though. Towards the end, where Mina Shirakawa ended up hitting her glamorous driver on Toni Storm. Toni Storm kicks out. After she kicks out, they go back and forth. Toni Storm ends up headbutting her back to back. Then Toni Storm hitting the Storm Zero and picks up the victory here. Now, I felt like the match was kind of anticlimactic. The match was just starting to pick up the moment it ended. So, because I feel like Toni Storm has had tougher opponents than Mina Shirakawa, and the way they was building Mina up, it felt like this match should have went on a little bit longer and should have been more of a better fight. But it was a decent match nonetheless. Towards the end though, after Toni Storm picks up the victory, Mariah May goes towards her. They have a little moment. Then Toni Storm goes to Mina, lifts her up, and they end up shaking hands. They shake hands, but then Mariah May wants them to hug. They end up hugging. Then Mariah May ends up grabbing both of them, grabs both women by the head, puts their heads towards against each other, and then all three of them kiss, and all of them are on good terms. I I'm not gonna say I hate this ending. I don't love it either. I'm very interested to see what happens in the Owen Hart Cup tournament for the women's. I didn't watch none of the pre-show matches because I just didn't care. I know Mariah May had a pre-show match, I think against Saraya. I just assumed Mariah May would win that match. I don't see why Saraya should win, so I'm just assuming Mariah May will win and go to the next round. But I'm very interested to see what's going to be next for Toni Storm and Mariah May and how they possibly could build that up to All In if they even do that match. Next, we get Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. This is also a match that I was kind of impressed by. I didn't think this match would be that good, but this match was actually pretty impressive. I was very impressed with Zack Sabre Jr. and Orange Cassidy in the ring. They was doing a lot of good stuff. Early on, I started off with Zack Sabre Jr. Playing mind games, trying to get in Orange Cassidy's head. Later in the match, they ended up doing another injury angle again. With these matches where Zack Sabre ended up, but this time it actually worked, where Zack Sabre ended up injuring his wrist and he ends up snapping his fingers in this match, if I'm not mistaken. Later on in the match, Orange Cassidy tries to go for an orange punch. He ends up hitting it, but due to the injury, it didn't fully go through, and Zack Sabre was able to recover from that, hitting a running kick. Then it was a very cool sequence where they was trading roll-up pins back and forth, trading roll-up pins, but they was doing like different variations. Like they weren't just doing typical roll-up pins, they was doing like some crazy variation roll-up pins. And then Orange Cassidy ends up doing a bridge pin, then Zack Sabre Jr. reversed. He did a bridge pin, then Cassidy did another. It was a very sick. I really love that sequence that they did there. They did this for they did like 10 roll-up pins in a row, just doing different variations of it. It was very sick. But then after they stopped doing the roll-up pins, Zack Sabre Jr. ended up getting Orange Cassidy in a submission, and he ends up holding his arm and his legs. Like he's holding his legs with his legs and he's holding his arms with his arms, and Orange Cassidy has nowhere to go. He can't crawl to the ropes or anything, and he ends up tapping out, which was very surprising because Orange Cassidy don't tap out. He doesn't tap out and he doesn't lose. So I was very shocked that he lost. But this was a quite entertaining match. This was a solid match. Very surprised Zack Sabre Jr. picked up the victory here. Next, we get Hook, Shibata, and Samoa Joe versus the Learning Tree with Jeff Cobb, if I'm not mistaken. This was also a decent match. Nothing too special. Solid match. Mainly going to get towards the end, though. Towards the end, we get Hook. He gets a hot tag. He's fighting Chris Jericho. It's him and Chris Jericho in the ring. I think someone else came in. Hook ended up doing a T-bone suplex. After he did the T-bone suplex, Chris Jericho ended up doing the code breaker onto Hook. Goes to the pin. Hook ends up kicking out. Then Hook gets up. Hook ends up hitting the T-bone suplex on Chris Jericho. But then he wasn't done. He ends up doing the Judas effect on Chris Jericho and picks up the victory. This was also a decent match as well. Nothing too major. Next, we get the TNT Championship ladder match between Mark Briscoe, Leo Rush, my mistake, Konosuke Takeshita, Dante Martin. I think Phantasma, that's his name, was also in this match, and Jack Perry. I don't know how I forgot Jack Perry because he's the one that ended up winning this match. Obvious choice to make sure he wins this match. This was a really good ladder match. I enjoyed this ladder match. Starts off with Jack Perry being the slimy heel he is. He tries to run out the ring, but everyone else making Jack Perry a target. Runs away from all the opponents. He gets back in the ring, but then Konosuke Takeshita ends up laying him out very quickly. Then everyone else just start brawling, and it's back to being a regular ladder match. Then we get to the really sick and cool spots that they had, because they had some very cool spots in there. Specifically, Konosuke Takeshita. He was on one in this match. He had amazing spots. Like, we had Konosuke Takeshita hitting a sick brainbuster on Dante Martin onto a ladder, and then I think soon after that, Mark Briscoe ended up doing a moon style springboard dive onto Konosuke Takeshita on a ladder while he had on a table while he had a ladder on top of him. That was very sick. Then shortly after that, if I'm not mistaken, on the outside, Jack Perry was on a table and Mark Briscoe climbed all the way to the top of the ladder, dove off the ladder onto the table onto Jack Perry. Now he was a little short because he didn't hit the table, but he was close enough where you could sell it as he hit Jack Perry, but he was a little short on the landing. But that was very sick what he did, climbing all the way to the top of the ladder, diving onto a table onto Jack Perry. That was also very sick. But we do get towards the end of the match where Mark Briscoe climbs up the ladder. It looks like he's about to pick the victory, but Jack Perry comes in, grabs the ladder, and ends up smacking Mark Briscoe off the ladder. That the ladder that is close to the championship. Then he ends up smashing Mark Briscoe with a chair. He ends up putting the ladder that he hit him with, stacks the ladder on top of Mark Briscoe so he can't move. Jack Perry climbs up, and now he is your new TNT Championship. Now the Elite have all the gold. It only makes sense from a storyline perspective for Jack Perry to pick up the victory here. But this was a really good match. Next, we get Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie. This is also a match that very well surprised me as well. During this match, Mercedes was actually getting booed. Now, I'm not going to make this a big deal because she's from Boston and they was in New York. So I'm assuming that she only got booed because, you know, she's from Boston. So I'm assuming that's why she got booed. I'm not going to speak too much. I don't think it was that big of a deal, but who knows? Because she gets good reactions when she's on Dynamite. So I'm assuming this was just a one-time thing. But Stephanie was really impressive in this ring. She was amazing. I ain't gonna lie. She low-key made me, I low-key wanted her to win. I knew she wasn't gonna win, but she impressed me in the ring. I would love to see more of her. Now, I will say this. I kind of don't like this match, though, because Stephanie, throughout 90% of this match, was dominating Mercedes. Like, literally, just dominating Mercedes. Mercedes got a little offense in here and there, but it was very short lived. And then the way they ended it was very anticlimactic because it was basically a bunch of reversals. Then Mercedes finally was able to hit the moneymaker after trying to hit it all match. Tried to hit the moneymaker like 4 times, but couldn't. She finally hits it, ends up putting her in a crossface submission, and ends up making her tap. This match was fun. This match was good, but it was kind of anticlimactic with the way Mercedes won. Because she really didn't do much in this match in terms of like hurting her opponent. I just feel like they could have done more and made Mercedes get more offense if that was the way you was going to finish it. But Mercedes is now your New Japan Women's Stronghold champion, and she is the TBS championship. But after the match, though, we got a surprising return with Dr. Britt Baker. She has returned, and she is making it very clear that she's going to go after Mercedes Moné. And I can't wait because Mercedes Moné needs someone to face at All In. And that women's division, there is no one for her to face because Kris Statlander is busy with Willow. She's not facing Toni Storm. She's not facing Mariah May. Saraya, no. So, yeah, it only makes sense. I love it. I can't wait to see how that match plays out. Now, this match, I'm going to speak very quickly of because this, to be honest, was the bathroom break match. Tetsuya versus Jon Moxley for the IWGP Championship. This match was very boring to me. I'm not going to speak too much on it. Tetsuya ended up picking up the victory. He ends up being your new IWGP Championship. He ends up picking up the victory here. Now we get the main event. Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland. This match was everything it needed to be. This match was amazing. This match was amazing. Both wrestlers did their thing. This was a great match. Just some very sick spots, man. Early on, both wrestlers going back and forth. Neither could get the advantage. Then early on, Will Ospreay was getting the advantage, outsmarting Swerve Strickland. But then Swerve Strickland was able to pick it up. Then they go back and forth. We got some quick moments. We had a moment where Will Ospreay ended up trying to go for a cutter, but Swerve Strickland also gets on the ropes, and as Will Ospreay goes for the cutter, he ends up swerve stopping him mid-air while he goes for the cutter. That was very sick. Then shortly after, Swerve Strickland ends up doing a swerve stomp while Will Ospreay is near the announce table onto the announce table. That was a very sick maneuver as well, where shortly after, Will Ospreay ends up doing a top rope cutter as well, and then he ended up doing another cutter going for a pin. Swerve Strickland, of course, ends up kicking out. Will Ospreay ends up going for the Tiger Driver. He's feeling it. He's getting confident. He's very confident. He feels like he's about to put it away. He ends up going for the Tiger Driver. Swerve Strickland ends up reversing it and ends up hitting the hidden blade, if I'm not mistaken. Then, after he hits the hidden blade, Swerve Strickland ends up going for the swerve stomp, but it ends up getting reversed, which ends up hitting Will Ospreay. I think Will Ospreay ends up hitting a hidden blade too, as well, after he hits the swerve stomp. Or if I could be nice. No. Before that, he tries to attack Swerve Strickland, yeah. But the referee got in the way, and he ends up accidentally attacking the referee. While he's doing this, Swerve Strickland tries to take the advantage and tries to attack Will Ospreay, but can't. Will Ospreay ends up getting the upper hand, and he ends up hitting the hidden blade on Swerve Strickland. He goes for the pin. The ref is out. There's no one to count the 1, 2, 3. You get Don Callis. He comes out, tries to help Will Ospreay, and he wants him to use a screwdriver. Tries to use a screwdriver, but Will Ospreay says no. He refused to do it. Then you got Prince Nana. He's getting frustrated. Him and Don Callis go back and forth, and Prince Nana end up pushing Don Callis to the floor. Will Ospreay gets angry. He ends up about to attack Prince Nana. He ends up grabbing the screwdriver, and it looks like he's about to stab him with it. But Will Ospreay realized what he was about to do. He ends up putting the screwdriver down and ends up not attacking Prince Nana. He tries to get back in the ring, but that's when Swerve Strickland takes advantage, ends up immediately kicking him, taking the advantage, and then immediately ends up hitting the swerve stomp. He immediately hits the swerve stomp, and he goes for the pin. He immediately kicks out. He kicks out. Then out of nowhere, Swerve Strickland is a house call. He ends up doing a house call, goes for another pin, and kicks out. At this moment, when he kicked out of both of those moves, I was scared because I thought Will Ospreay was going to win. I was like, they're going to actually pull the trigger, have Will Ospreay win. Because I was like, no way he kicked out of the swerve stop and a house call back to back. Kicks out of both of them. Then Will Ospreay starts charging up afterwards. It looks like he's about to gain momentum. It's about to go crazy. But It looks like it was just adrenaline because he tries to attack Swerve Strickland, but he can't. He has no energy. He has no force behind his punches, and he can't do anything. He ends up just falling to the ground. Swerve Strickland ends up taking momentum. He did some type of power driver, if I'm not mistaken. He did some type of power driver to finish Will Ospreay off, and he retains the AEW World Championship. This was a great match. This was a banger. 10 out of 10. This was perfect. Very interested to see what's next. This basically solidifies Swerve Strickland as champion. Interested to see what's next. Interested to see what Will Ospreay does as well, because I know next week he's going to face Daniel Garcia for the International Championship, which he's going to win. Very interested to see what both wrestlers do at All In. I'm assuming Swerve Strickland most likely someone from the Owen Hart tournament, aka Hangman Page, if the Elite end up putting him in that Owen Hart Cup tournament. Very interested to see what he does. Very interested to see what Will Ospreay does. Should probably be MJF, but why would MJF face for the international title? There's a lot of questions that's going to be happening as they build towards All In. But this was a solid show. It wasn't bad, but for AEW, for what they're known for, it's very shocking that I'm only saying this was a solid show. It was only like 3 matches that I feel like you probably should watch, which is the Mercedes and Stephanie match, Will Ospreay and Swerve, and then the ladder match. Everything else, I'm gonna be honest, they could have just kept that on either Dynamite or Collision. But overall, this was a solid show. Nothing too special, but this was a solid show. You guys let me know what you guys thought of AEW Forbidden Door. Leave your comments down below. Leave your thoughts down below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.